and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.
Welcome to episode 57 of the Outer Voices podcast. As always, we are your hosts, Keem and Esme.
Woo!
I was a little flowery today.
I'm in a great mood. It is summertime now. Thank you very much.
Summertime in the city.
Now I've got that song stuck in my head.
Hot as hell.
Oh, it is so hot.
Oh, there's a new song by Aloe Black, because I love Aloe Black. He's awesome.
Yes, we know.
Or
I know.
Called Brooklyn in the Summer. It's pretty legit.
Nice. That's going to be your jam this summer, right?
It really is. Though there's another song by Panic at the Disco right now that's also kind of killing it.
Although I don't like Panic at the Disco.
I know. You probably didn't have an emo phase.
My emo phase was a couple of years before Panic at the Disco.
See, my emo phase was like coinciding with their.
Well, yeah, because you're a few years younger than me.
Also, they're moving more towards a jazzy thing, and I dig it. I dig it real hard.
Yeah, we know. Or I know.
Anyway, since we're talking about music, on to other stuff. We were on a show before we start the news segment. We were on a show.
We were on a show.
Recently.
Go check out Man Yells at News. It was awesome.
Yes. It was very awesome. We are glad to have it on. We got to yell with other people about the news.
Yes. It was a lot. It was pretty great.
Yeah. And despite Google Hangouts, fucking us with technical difficulties at the beginning.
Whatever. It was Google.
Yeah.
Google does that all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, go check out that show. It was great. Larry is awesome.
Yes.
That's a great show if you haven't already listened to it. And maybe people who have seen that show will come join us and become one of our listeners.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, of course. But speaking of news, shall we get into it?
I guess let's.
Let's dig into it. I think my news story may be a little more pertinent to the topic segment, so I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, so my news segment actually is from last week, but I did not get to it last week, so we're going to do it this week, where in California, Yasmina Saavedra, who is a Republican candidate for the California state congressional seat, posted a, let's say, controversial Facebook Live video.
Controversial is a word for it.
Of her actively confronting a transgender woman in a public restroom. At a Denny's, because that's relevant somehow, right? At a Denny's, right?
Because there's no eatery more American than Denny's.
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
So this Republican candidate for California Congress followed a trans woman into the bathroom and made a Facebook Live post, like video from the bathroom.
Because
outside the stall, where she is going off about this quote-unquote man who thinks he's a woman violating her privacy and her right to use the bathroom by being in the women's restroom, quote-unquote.
Because going in while somebody's using the bathroom.
Yeah, that's not a violation of privacy at all.
Confront them about privacy violations makes so much sense.
Yes. Exactly, right? And in the video, like, the transgender woman is, like, inside the bathroom stall. And this woman is outside the stall, like, filming this video. And the transgender woman goes, "You're invading my privacy." Because she was invading this woman's privacy to make a point. I'm sure it's to make a point, right? To make a, like, to gain the Republican support for the people who like this is stupid. This
And,
is stupid.
and I like how in order to gain conservative support nowadays, you have to be extreme. You have to be an extremist. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that's what happened to the decorum.
Yeah. Apparently this woman, this congressional candidate was carrying pepper spray at the ready throughout this incident. Like what's gonna happen?
That's premeditated assault if she did do anything.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be confrontational and you're carrying pepper spray to mace someone, then that's premeditated assault. You can't do that.
Yeah. Something in the transcript of the video, something that the trans woman said, makes it sound like this candidate had actually been following her, right? Had followed her previously.
I wouldn't be surprised, because like for this, it all seems extraordinarily premeditated.
Yeah.
Because like you're not just going to walk into a random bathroom, pick a trans person, and do that. No, that like this was a stunt to prove something.
To prove family values. That's it. That's the thing, right? That's the Republican thing. Family values.
Because you should teach your children to go and harass people while they're using the bathroom.
Oh yes, absolutely.
You know, I was taught, and we talked about this on the show. I don't feel comfortable talking to anyone or acknowledging anyone in the bathroom.
Yes.
I was taught when people are using the bathroom, leave them alone because they're trying to use the bathroom.
Yes.
And I don't get just like, oh, this person is taking a shit. Let me go harass them because they're violating my privacy.
Yeah.
By using, you know what needs to happen? No, needs to be happen. There needs to be shit-ins.
I'm on it. Let's do it.
Yeah, just like LGBT people and trans people and everyone. Just go to these places and states where the people are all outraged about the trans people using the bathroom and just shit it. Just shit all day. Like just go it just horrible. Just because that's if you don't get how ridiculous you're being at this point, then you're a lost cause for a human being.
Yeah.
If you literally won't let people go to the bathroom in peace. Like I grew up going to the bathroom was something damn near sacred. Like, you didn't bother anyone in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Jeez. Let people shit in peace. Like, I know it's... Like, is it wrong that I'm more, not more, but even, like, angrier than the blatant, like, disrespect for human beings' rights to live? I'm just as angry about that as, like, I'm just as angry about, like, somebody bothering someone in the bathroom as that.
Yeah.
Like, fuck's sake. You know what? Lady, I will come shit on your doorstep. I'll do it. I mean, if I was in California, I'd do it. Like, if you want to be disrespectful and have a problem with people using the bathroom, I'm just going to come poo on your doorstep.
I believe that.
Yeah, I would. Like, no doubt. Just drop a 666 size deuce right there. Oh, my God. Sorry, people. I'm being a little aggressive this morning.
You are being a little aggressive this morning.
I'm feeling it. Anyway, yeah, that's awful. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I am good.
So my story, like I said, may be a little more pertinent. And give me 1 second. I'm going to get the specifics up on it. I have it here on my phone, but my phone kind of shut down. So, we live. I was discussing this earlier, but I guess we live in a very reactionary, very like respondent. Everything is all hyped culture, and sometimes and many times that backfires because people get ridiculous about things that they do not need to be getting ridiculous about. For instance, a bank employee was fired in Raleigh, North Carolina. He was fired because he had pop figurines on his desk, and if you don't know pop figurines, they're pop culture, little pop culture, almost bobbleheads. They're very popular. Like they usually come from popular TV shows, video games, stories, etc. But he had pop figures on his desk, and a customer complained that his pop figures were racist. His pop figures were two black zombie characters in chains. Those characters are from the show The Walking Dead.
Figures. I mean.
Yeah. And anybody who knows anything about that show or been paying any attention to popular culture in the past couple of years knows that one of the major characters had to their husband and brother were zombified, and she didn't decapitate them, but she disarmed them and cut off their bottom jaws to use as cover to keep other zombies from attacking her. And they were part of a set, and he had the entire set of most of the main characters on his desk. But the customer complained, of course, that those two were racist, and the guy got fired. Which is completely and utterly ridiculous. There was you get some step back from maybe not knowing, living under a rock and maybe not knowing the context behind those characters, okay? But you have to think sometimes before you just say everything is racist. And that's an issue in the black community. And we do live in a racist society. And a lot of things are racist. But sometimes you reach and pull shit out of your ass.
Mm-hmm.
You get offended by things that you have no idea about because you just see something and make an assumption. Oh, and this wasn't even a hard thing to figure out. This guy's desk was literally covered in figures from the same show. They were stationed at different parts around his desk. This is the guy's collection. It was his bit of flair at work. Had nothing to do with anything. But now this person is facing, and he's suing the bank, of course. Though the bank said his firing was because he handled the customer poorly. We know that's not real. From the story, he was when the woman complained, he was just like, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't understand." He was just like, I don't understand. This is from the show, and he's trying to explain it, but the woman wasn't having any of it. But we have this with everything that's going on, we've also got this outrage, this outrage culture that you have to be outraged. Like, you have to find something to be angry about. And I, unfortunately, went into the comments on Facebook.
Never look at the comments.
And, of course, you have your standard, like, racist people just like, he should do whatever he wants because I don't care if there's N-words on in chains, because that's where they belong. Like, those are idiots. Like, those people exist, and they just want to, shit on everybody. But what got me were the people going, of course he was racist. Of course that's racist. It doesn't matter what's the context. You can't have that anywhere where people can see it. When the race of those characters literally have nothing to do with those characters or those figures. The only important thing was that they were zombies and they were this character's protection.
Yeah.
You don't have to fight everything. Like, you don't have to strike out. You can't be a coper. You can't be a coper. You can't strike out and spit at everything.
You can't?
You gotta have some discernment. Everything can't be a fight, because that illegitimate that makes times where there are actual problems, where there are things that you should be fighting, seem very illegitimate.
Yes.
Like, don't be stupid, people. Don't be stupid. For the love of God, like, think for once. But like I said, now this guy is, like, in a media circus, lost his job, going through all of this stuff for two $10 toys that had nothing to do with anything. That whatever, like, has nothing to do with, like, race, nothing to do with his own personal beliefs. And if, who knows, he may personally, like, who knows what, he may personally be, like, racist or whatever in his life. But the incident doesn't stem from someone doing something racial. This was someone having figures from a show they love that had nothing to do with anything else. And you can't do that to people. Like, you can't be like that. Like, because of this constant turmoil, constant fighting, we've forgotten what it's like to be human beings anymore. Everything's a fight. Everything is serious, and nothing has context anymore. It's just, I'm fighting you, I'm conflicted with you, I'm fighting this problem and that problem. And yes, there are things we need to be fighting, and things that are issues, and things we definitely need to stand up for. But can we please be reminded that we are still humans, and to act like people. Like, use your brain. Treat people somewhat good. It's annoying. It's super fucking annoying.
Yes, that is true.
Especially as a nerd. Like, because there's imagery in, like, any kind of pop culture that possibly could be. This is in the same vein as people saying the Black Panther movie was racist. Like, this is what the same thing I'm seeing. Like, oh, he's Black Panther, must be racist.
Super racist, obviously.
Because he said black.
Yes.
Like,
everybody knows that as soon as you say the word black, that means it's racist.
Yeah. Or anytime a white person or anytime a person of one ethnicity likes a character or something from another, it's also racist.
Yes.
Because you can't like things that aren't your ethnicity.
Exactly. Obviously.
I've had people like get angry at me for liking Captain America. I fucking love Captain America. Half my shit in my room is Captain America.
That is true. I have been to Keem's room.
Unfortunately, even at my school and in my neighborhood, because my favorite jacket is a Captain America jacket. I have a bunch of Captain America T-shirts. I'm kind of becoming that guy. Unfortunately, but I've had people.
Why is that unfortunate?
Because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be like the obsessively nerdy guy.
You don't? That contradicts everything that I know about you, Keem.
I try to be a mix. I try to be, really nerdy at times, but also really cool. I mean, I'll throw on some, throw on my suits and, do my face up and be fly as hell, but also, other times, rock my nerdy T-shirt,
Yeah.
Trying to get my shit together. Trying to be that cool nerd, But, like I said, people have had problems with me. Like, how dare you like Captain America? He's racist. Motherfucker, have you actually read any Captain America stuff ever? Captain America is probably the least racist white character in comic books ever. Except for the time he was cloned by the Nazis and became a Nazi. And that's comic book crazy right there.
Yep.
But this is the dude that literally punched Hitler in the face.
Yes.
Him and Black Panther once fought the Klan together. One of Captain America's major things is that he fights white supremacists.
Yes. Because white supremacy, listen up, guys, white supremacy is un-American.
Exactly.
Not the opposite of that, right? White supremacy isn't American. It is not an American value. Punching white supremacists is an American value.
It truly is.
Or resisting them in whatever way feels authentic and useful. Right?
It's very interesting. The major pop culture characters that represent America, so your Captain America, your Superman, have all been written as anti-white supremacy, like anti-hyper-nationalism. Anytime, especially with Captain America, anytime hyper-nationalism became a thing, that character would not only denounce it, but would often renounce the name Captain America. Because as soon as America became representative of something awful, Captain America was not for it. It's like people make so many judgments without understanding that everything becomes outrage. So that's my thing. People fucking think, okay? Jesus. Anyway, that sounds like we are should be moving on to the topic segment, which should be very interesting.
Excellent.
I think I teased it a little bit last week. If you listened to last week, and if you haven't listened last week, go back and listen to last week, and then come back. Like, stop right now, go back and listen to last week's episode, then come back and start it after this brief musical interlude. Enjoy.
So, real quick, because I'm going to make you do that outro again. Our music this week is provided by Ash Leone, who will be on the show next week with an artist interview, and as much as I can convince them to come on the show for, honestly, because they're pretty great. Music this week provided by Ash Leone. Artist interview next week, so tune in for sure, and enjoy the music.
Enjoy.
It is we who have picked the cotton for nothing. It is we who are the maids in the kitchens of liberal white people. It is we who are the janitors, the porters, the elevator men. The we who sweep up your college floors. Yes, it is we who are the hardest workers and the lowest paid. And that it is nonsensical for people to start talking about human relationships until they're willing to build new institutions.
I wish I could give all my friends superpowers. They said I have to give them flowers. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no. I wish I could give all my friends superpowers. They said I have to give them flowers. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no.
Fighting the powers that be, fighting the dark enemy. Who is the real enemy? Who is the person I see? Who am I? Who are they? Who are you? What is free? What is key? Where are we heading to? I'm confused. Watch the news, feel the blues. Watch your news, feel the pain. Is this rain? Skies are clear, tears are near, fears are here. I just rap, let's go clap. Bullets fly, bodies drop, people die, cops they walk, faces talk. I confess, I'm depressed. This is stress. What is life? Meaningless? Not impressed. I'm not buying more in store. Can't give up. Not alone. Your love is
the kind of person that I would probably die. If you weren't around, I wouldn't get by. I'd probably get high and fall in the sky and fly to the ground and wake on my side with no one around but you. You've been the kind of person that I would probably die. If you weren't around, I wouldn't get by. I'd probably get high and fall in the sky and fly to the ground and wake on my side with no one around but you. I wish I could give all my friends superpowers. They said I have to give them flowers. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no. I wish I could give all my friends superpowers. They said I have to give them flowers. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no. It ain't the same, no.
And welcome back, everyone. Before we get into our topic segment, let me give you a little bit of a cautionary warning. Our listeners are about to get some superfluous use of the word nigga.
I don't think that it's superfluous if it's the point.
True. Let's go with this. Gonna get some very liberal usage of the word nigga today.
There you go.
Because we are going to be talking about reclaimed language.
I also am going to use some words with regards to LGBT identity that some people might be sensitive to. I don't know. Also with regards to, I don't know. Language warning, right? We're talking about language, and we're going to be using some strong language.
Viewer discretion is advised. Well, listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, we're going to be talking about language, more specifically reclaimed language and reclaiming language.
Yes.
So, I mean, first of all, I can't pinpoint an exact day when this came up. This this discussion came up because in the black community, there's always a discussion on whether you can use nigga or not. But I will say a few weeks ago, I had gotten into a discussion with someone about the usage of the word thug. Because this person, so the discussion, people were using the word like, talking about guys who were like thuggish. They were using the term thuggish and like thug to define like someone who is, for lack of a better descriptive word, hood. Like lives like poor, black, usually urban, hood. Y'all know what hood means. And this young lady I was speaking to was very vocal about the other people. These were black people using the term thug because of the way it's used, like in the media and in popular culture now. Because on the news and in the media and to many people outside the black community and in the black community, thug is very much used as basically a replacement for the N-word. And I'm talking about N-word with the hard R.
But it even carries a slightly different connotation, right? Because thug implies violent.
Yeah, it's violent. It's basically N-word plus super predator.
Yeah, exactly.
And
thanks Hillary for that one.
And whatever, right? Yeah, you gotta love Hillary and her super predators and further stigmatizing black male youth.
Yes. Because that needed to happen.
But yeah, so we got into a discussion about the usage of the word thug, and so for me, I grew up in the 90s. And
what, really? Sorry.
I know I seem so young. I am still pretty young. I'm not even 30 yet.
You're a baby.
Yeah, but I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s and in many like black communities, thug life and whatever wasn't something that was wholly negative. In fact, for a lot of people, it was positive. For a lot of people, it was being carefree. Like in an environment where you were poor and struggling, everything was kind of destitute. Thug life was, I'm carefree. I'm gonna party and enjoy myself. I always think about your like legendary rappers now, Snoop and Pac, especially Pac, because hearing Tupac use the word thug and talk about thug life is completely different than the usage that you hear today. I mean, it still has like some like what's the word? Lumpen proletariat meaning. Mm-hmm. But it's completely different. And see, that's the thug, that's the way the word thug I grew up with. Like it was hood, but it wasn't bad. It was just a type of like a certain type of behavior.
Yeah.
But of course now it's completely negative. Completely negative connotation. So the conversation continued, and we started talking about reclaiming language and how to reclaim it. Because and what we boiled down to was, first, like we have to stop using it in a negative connotation, but you start using it more in a positive way, because you can. you very well can use it. It's been done before.
Well, yeah.
And even in regards to the black community, make it something that means like something powerful. Some people, and this, for example, there's a song by the rapper Trick Daddy, and it's called "I'm a Thug." It's another song I grew up with, and it was possibly one of the most positive portrayals of what a thug was I've ever heard. Still love the song, and it's just a guy going, "They love me because I'm a thug." He's like, I'm not worse than anyone. I'm not better than anyone. It's not just the clothes I wear or what I do. It's all of me, and people love me. All day, every day, I'm a thug. Wouldn't change it for the world. And I've always liked that view. But it's so difficult dealing with language, because language shifts so much. People don't realize how much language changes.
Language changes literally all of the time.
Exactly. I look at all the words that just didn't exist a few years ago. I look at all the words that didn't exist like last year.
Yeah.
Like we talked about being woke last week. That meaning of the word woke and that usage literally just appeared in the last couple of years. And my God, the internet has just created words.
Yes.
But people don't realize how much words change. So it begs the question: how do we deal with reclaimed language? What does reclaimed language mean? And like, how do we operate it? So, because I've been talking, explain to people what reclaimed language is, because we used it, but we didn't explain it.
Okay, so correct me if your definition of this is different from mine, right? The way that I use reclaimed language, from my perspective, is taking words that have that originated as a discriminatory or weaponized language against your community, against people who are like you, and turning it in, claiming it for your own and using it as something positive. Right. So you made the examples of thug and the N-word. I use queer for myself, which is traditionally a slur against LGBT people in any kind of context. Right.
Right.
But something that has been really, really heavily reclaimed by LGBT people since the 80s. I think is when it really started. The 80s and early 90s is when that really started to be reclaimed. And even still, that's just like the N-word and just like thug, it's really heavily divided within the LGBT community. Typically along generational lines, right? Younger LGBT people typically reclaim it as a positive thing, whereas the older you get, up into people who are in their late 40s, 50s, 60s still see it as something negative.
Right.
But yeah, so reclaimed language is using a word in a positive context that has traditionally been used in a negative context against people in your community.
Yes. It's like another word that really pops up a lot in regards to women and usage is the word bitch.
Oh God, I use the word bitch for myself all the time, but I would not use that for somebody who has not already told me that it's okay.
Right. I hear people what up, my bitch, and all this stuff. Oh, you bitches. So it's always you bitches. all the time. But of course, if that was used outside of that group, would not be the same. I'll tell you another interesting word. This is a very similar to the N word. The word Negro and colored.
Yeah.
Very, very divisive, because by all accounts, like, they're not overwhelmingly, those two words aren't especially overwhelmingly negative. It was mostly, they were really just identifiers at different times. As the classifications changed.
Yeah.
Like, the words changed. And it's very interesting to see when people get offended by. So I say Negro a lot in regards to black people. I will say Negro. And it's strange. It's strange to me, but I understand it. How people get so uncomfortable with the word Negro, but it's because in a lot of the context they've heard it. And it's mostly because they see it in historical stuff, like historical text and historical movies, where there's always some racist going, the Negro, or the Negro problem, or all this stuff.
Yeah.
And colored's the same way, but colored's weird because the only people that still really use colored is really old white people, like old Southern grandmas. It's oh, that you little colored boy. And it's Grandma, you can't. We don't say colored anymore, Grandma. They just they don't get. We can't say colored anymore, Grandma. Well, why not? He's colored.
Right.
But it's always been so funny. It's always so funny to me, especially the colored the colored thing. Oh, have I ever told you this joke?
I don't
Do it
know.
before I forget it. It's just so why do they call us colored and not white people? I mean, we stay the same color all the time. White people are the real colored ones. When you get cold, you turn blue. When you get sick, you turn green. When you're mad, you turn red.
You have never told me that joke before, but I have heard it before.
It's a classic. But yeah, it's the way people using and reclaiming languages is very interesting to me. Especially, I just like talking about language as it is. Okay, I'll tell you something I did, because there was a few years ago. It was so stupid, and this was stupid. So Al Sharpton and the NAACP held a ceremonial funeral for nigga.
I remember that.
And it was supposed to be, because this was apparently the NAACP and Al Sharpton thought they could just tell black people to do something and they would do it. But this was the end of the N-word. They were going to bury it dead, and black people weren't supposed to say the N-word anymore. To most black people, they looked at that and said, nigga, you crazy.
Yeah, right?
It's but that was a whole thing, and it was a whole campaign to get rid of the N-word, and get rid of nigga, because nigga and the N-word are different.
Not white people.
And that's I'm going to get onto that one.
No, see, here's the thing, right? So I'm a white person, surprise. We understand the contextual difference between them, but we can't say either of them. So
Right. Like,
so they're both the N-word because we can't say either of them.
right. And interesting fact recently, within the last week, Kendrick Lamar invited a nice young white fan, and I felt sorry for her, honestly, because she's clueless, young teenage white girl. Invited her up on stage to rap part of the song, and she was going, and it's a Kendrick Lamar song, so nigga was coming up in the lyrics on the screen. She was just rapping along saying nigga, and Kendrick Lamar stopped the concert and sent her off stage. Like, you can't do that, honey. And I honestly felt bad. Because she was clueless.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a part of white privilege. You're clueless. But like I said, I felt sorry for her because she was just enjoying herself without, like, she didn't think of any of the connotations or whatever. From the way it seemed, it didn't seem like she was one of those people who just like, well, you can say the N-word, why can't we? Because, nigga, you want to say the N-word. We just say it. It's our word.
Yeah.
Like white people. White people. If you have to ask why I can't say the N-word, then that's your answer. Because you had to ask.
Yeah.
Like, and for anyone, if you go to somebody and like say something and they go, you can't say that, and you ask, why can't I say that?
That's why.
That's why you can't say that. Simple as that. Also, white people, if you have a black friend and they tell you you can say the N-word, there are two scenarios. One, they don't really like you. They are trying to get you killed. That is a planned assassination attempt. Because your ass is going to go say the N-word around some black folks that ain't going to take it, and they going to beat the shit out of you. Or, number two, you can say it around them. Don't ever say it around any other black people.
I have that exact conversation with my students all the time when we're talking about, especially when we're talking about language that's been reclaimed by the LGBTQ community, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, and that's the speech that I give them, right? Is like, if you have a friend who calls herself a dyke, that means you get to say that word around her. It does not mean that you get to go around calling lesbian women that all the time.
Right.
That's one person that you get to use that around, and nobody else.
And you will get your ass handed to you. Handily. Like, contrary to popular belief, minorities do not have the shining. We do not have telepathy. We do not speak and have meetings on a monthly basis to discuss what you can say and what you can't say and who can say what. We don't discuss free passes, who's coming to the barbecue, none of that. Okay? So if your friend gives you the pass to say something, please know that that only counts with them.
Yep.
And unless you want an ass whooping, because nowadays, see, there's some tension in America right now. If you don't understand what's happening right now, there's some tension. And we Negroes cannot play with y'all motherfuckers today. Because if you out here saying it, nigga, we don't know if you're going to march on us or come in our houses and burn crosses. So we have no choice but to fuck you up.
They got a little Bill Cosby there at the end. I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to go Bill Cosby. It was side like Southern black preacher, but
with
it did get a little
liberal use of the word motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't say a very good preacher. But it did get a little pudding poppy there at the end, so I apologize. But yeah, back on this N-word funeral that they had. Of course, black people, like the majority of black community, was just like, that's stupid.
That's ridiculous. You can't do that.
And here's another thing you don't understand, and this is with reclaimed language. If you're a part of the community, that reclaimed word or that reclaimed language, that is a part of you. That is a part of your community. You likely grew up with it. It's been with you for a while. You know, it's a part of you. You can't, like, growing up, you as a black kid, like most black kids outside of the, you know, hoity-toity, like upper class black kids, and we don't use the N-word in this house type of families. You heard nigga every day. A lot of black kids probably didn't realize their name wasn't nigga until they were like 3 or 4 years old. Come here, little nigga. Nigga, sit down. What you doing, nigga? Also, niggas was everything. Anything could be a nigga. If you get like, and this is from a stand-up thing from like Donald Glover, but it's so true. You can get in your car, your seatbelt be stuck, man. This nigga, and like trying to get calling your seatbelt a nigga, like everybody, everything's a nigga because it's just a part. It's just a part of like your community. It's just a part of your life and whatever. But the problem becomes for people when it's not like, it's not a part of your life. It's not a part of your community. It's not something you grow up with. You're wanting to use that word for a reason. Whether it's a negative reason where you want to use it for negative connotations, or you want to live vicariously through using it, because a lot of white people especially want to use nigga to live vicariously, because while being black is dangerous and low class in America, it's also cool as fuck.
Because white people are fucked up, and we can condemn something on one hand and fetishize it on the other hand.
Right. So you want to be cool. You want to be cool like the Negroes. And I'm going to say the N-word. I'm going to use it like they say in their cool rap songs. So, like, but that's not something that belongs to you. That's not a part of your life. That's not a part of your community. It's not a part of your culture. It's when you say it, it has a different meaning than the way we say it.
Yeah.
My niece, love her to death. 9 years old, smart as hell.
Truth.
There were 2 kids at school, and these kids were talking, and I guess they just heard these words, and the black kid for some reason, the black kid went to this other little white kid, yo mama is a nigga. And the little white responded, yo mama is just a black cracker. And 9-year-olds, by the way. And my niece, the kids got in trouble for it because, you know, you're not supposed to use that language at school.
Yeah.
But my niece came in and she goes, I don't think they use those words right. And like literally what a 9-year-old said, she's like, doesn't have the right context. Because
your niece is fucking smart.
But and here's my point: if a 9-year-old can go, I don't think they use that right, and understand context, adults should understand why they can't say certain words. that when the words come out of their mouth, those words have a different context. When a 9-year-old kid can do it, you can do it.
I believe in you.
Like, there are entire words that I've eliminated from that I didn't even realize had negative connotations.
There's a few more that you need to do. Me too.
I'm working on it.
Because there's a whole lot of language that has negative connotations. I don't know if you know.
Like, and pardon me, I just want to give some examples. But growing up, when somebody like swindled us, we would say, "Oh, they got gypped."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't learn gypped was a slur until 3 years ago. People also use the word Jude. Did not know until I knew Jude was a slur like long before gypped.
Well, because it's a little more obvious.
Yeah, it's a little more obvious, but like I said, did not realize gypped was a bad word. Of course, another obvious one. Well, I have never used the F word, not the FU word, the FAGGOT word.
Yeah.
I've said it once in my life, and it was an accident. And it wasn't even like I was calling it. I was like saying somebody said this, and it came out like somebody said this word, and I said it straight out instead of saying that word, and it left such a sour taste in my mouth. I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
The word queer. Right there. For the longest time, like as kids, we played Smear the Queer. The football game. We tackled whoever had the football. We had no idea what that meant. We thought queer meant person with the football.
But no, turns out it's advocating violence against gay people.
Like there are so many things that we don't know the origin, we don't know the context. We just say it. And we have to start paying attention to that type of stuff.
Yeah, and here's the thing, is that there's a whole lot of them out there that you don't understand what the context is. But if that's true, and like you did right, and I did, and I've done right? Like when you learn the context behind this word, you stop using it. But there are way too many fucking people who say, "Oh, I didn't understand the context of that, but I've been using it since I was a kid, so I should still be," like somehow they get grandfathered in on this. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Or even worse, they get indignant about not being
like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to say this word? I've been saying it since I was a kid.
And that
how that works.
that goes back to, of course, our everyone's favorite word, privilege, and also the whole thing of people just don't like being told they can't do something.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the thing. People don't like being told they can't do something. So, which goes on with that being such a problem. People, like everyone has come up with solutions to try to solve the reclaimed language problem, and it's like how do we do this? Should we just eliminate the word completely? Should we, like, everyone stop using it, including people that it's reclaimed to? Because if other people can't say it, no one should be able to say it. Like, how do we solve this issue? I actually wrote an article based off a book I have called I'd Rather We Got Casinos by Larry Wilmore. Excellent book. Takes a good look at like race relations and stuff. It's funny, comedy, whatever. But Wilmore makes this whole thing about how we should change the term African American to chocolate.
Okay.
Because what he explained was the way you like black people self-identify has changed so much over the years, and no one really knows what's right. And anything is a slur. Anything can be a slur. And we just don't know. People don't know. So how do we solve the confusion? How do we solve the language problem? And he said, call black people chocolate. Like officially. Because everybody likes chocolate.
I just thought of a thing that I was going to say, but I should not say that. I'm not the right person to say that.
See, now I'm curious.
I think the culmination of that conversation would have been a Reese's peanut butter cup joke.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not going to go there.
Oh, and see, even chocolate makes things so much interesting, because who doesn't like to be covered in chocolate? Little black kids, they can be Cocoa Puffs. But it's fucking hilarious. Like but it's so real though. It's so real. It speaks to a real issue, because language is so important, and there's so many like connotations and usages of stuff, and that we want to solve the problem. We want to say the thing that is most acceptable. And how do we solve that? Like, that sounds ridiculous, but that could be like that could be a hilarious solution, but a good solution. But it's not something that can be done, or it's going to be done. But it's difficult. It's very difficult trying to navigate language.
That is true. Also, I'm on the train of whatever happened to just like talking to individuals. Like, so this individual that you're talking to would rather be called African American than being called black. Okay, call that person African American and use that phrase when you're talking to that person.
Because that's because people don't operate on an individual basis. They want to be able to cover as much as possible with language. And that's
which is fair, but that kind of generalization leads to like miscommunication and inaccuracy and being accidentally offensive. There's no one word that's going to work exactly right for every situation for every person. Did I tell you when it was that I started using black instead of African American? So it was a couple of years ago during February. And the local Kroger had a display of books by African American authors. And that's what the sign said on the display. It said African American authors. And I was like, awesome. Let me look at this display and see who I like, see if there's anything that looks interesting. So I look at the display, and the most prominently displayed book was by Zadie Smith, who is British.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so clearly African American doesn't always work. So let's be a little bit more, I don't know, descriptive.
And see, I've honestly always had an issue with African American, because there is two things. There is a fetishization of Africa in the black community as some kind of ancestral utopia.
Yeah.
That is very bothersome. I do not like that. It's fetishization. And two, the term African American lumps the entire continent of Africa and all the ethnicities and all the histories there into one group that I am not okay with. Also, it discounts the history. It also discounts the history of Black Americans to me, because Black Americans have a history that is unique, and it's not solely African. Our culture is not solely African because of the situations in our history. We have adopted many things that are not African, and most of us are of mixed descent just because slave masters like making slaves, especially after the slave trade was outlawed.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of mixing, a lot of differences, and for me, the term African American discounts a lot of people and a lot of history.
Yeah.
So I prefer the term Black Americans. That's just me.
Yeah, and other people feel differently.
Right.
And that's okay. Like, that's okay. People can feel differently about different words for different reasons.
See, and like, of course, the issue is it's hard to navigate on an individual basis, and add the extra of trying to figure out everything, like all the asking and stuff, just in normal conversation. It does add some extra work and time.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. And the human mind wants to make things easy as possible. But I think the extra issue is, you know, if let's just say you don't want to take the time out to figure out stuff, and you say something that you shouldn't, or identify somebody in a way that they're not okay with, or say a word that someone's not okay with, and someone tells you they're not okay with that word, take their word for it.
Yeah.
And don't use it again with them. Like respect the people. Respect the people you are encountering, and don't discount them for asking you to not say that again. Don't be like, well, why can't I? No, just don't do it. If somebody asks something, just oblige them. Even if you feel like, oh, well, I should be able to say it for whatever dumbass reason you think. Just don't. Respect them. Respect someone. And me, as far as niggas concerned, I'm gonna keep saying nigga. As a matter of fact, my niece just sent me a text message. My 9-year-old niece sent me a text message right now that said, "What's up, nigga?"
I believe that.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna keep saying it. Like, but as Az can attest, I don't say nigga around white people most of the time. This is probably besides Az being with my family, and we're gonna say that a lot because when we're together, that's what we do. This is probably the only other time like Az is going to hear me use nigga this much, unless I'm with other black people.
Also, I'm going to continue to remind you that I don't care.
I know you don't care, and I know most people I'm around. Most white people I'm around, almost anybody I'm around, won't care. However, it's a thing of like it is our word.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's kind of like I don't want to share because I shouldn't have to, because other people say it would say it with different contexts and connotations.
That's fair.
So I'm not going to share that with you. It doesn't, not you in particular, but I'm not going to share that with other people because it's not your thing. It's reclaimed for us.
Yeah. Which I totally get.
And I mean the same thing with you and queer.
Yeah.
And it took me, I don't know why it took me a minute to like remember the word I was going to say just then. And honestly, queer for me has become something rather interesting of late, because with my own self-identification, I've been having issues figuring out a word to identify, because I kind of just do my own thing in regards to like sexuality.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult, like, and Ez and I have discussed this, it's difficult when people ask you stuff, just like, hey, what are you? I don't feel super comfortable saying straight anymore, because by standard definitions, not.
Case in point, me.
Yes, because my partner is non-binary.
Yeah.
And so not particularly straight. I like trans people have like I can be attracted to trans people. I can be attracted to non-binary people. Honestly, just about the only type of person I'm not like attracted to are people who identify as men that also come with penises.
Cis dudes.
Yes, cis dudes.
You're not attracted to... Man, my life would be so much easier if I were not attracted to cis dudes. No offense. I love you.
And even with that being said, I can tell when a cis dude is attractive. Like Idris Elba, that's a sexy motherfucker.
That is true. I mean, celebrities don't count.
True.
Celebrities are like
True.
outside the normal spectrum of like humanity.
True. They are specimens. Like they are. A lot of celebrities are absolute specimens. Mm-hmm. They are attractive to just about anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so they apparently cast. They're making a Hunchback of Notre Dame movie. I don't think it's Disney oriented, but they're doing a Hunchback of Notre Dame movie, and they cast Idris Elba as Quasimodo, and I was just like, fucking how?
Right? Jesus.
Like, I don't know what CGI magic special effects bullshit you're gonna do to make Idris Elba not appealing. But I mean, you're gonna have to pull some shit off. Like I saw Thor Ragnarok, and just about every person in that movie is fucking sexy.
Well, yeah.
Like, Jesus. But that all of that to say, like I said, the word queer has been very interesting and very weird thing for me to interact with recently in regards to finding and like using an identifier. Because one of the uses is one of the uses that some people use. Like I said, I'm not using it for myself currently or anything. But one of the uses some people use is any non-heterosexual sexual identification.
Yeah, and that's the thing with queer too, is that there's so many uses that are currently like in use. There's so many different contexts that word is used in. And some of them are very specific, like a lot of people, myself included. No, I don't even know what I'm doing with my gender right now. But a lot of people use it as a very, or as a more specific, like gender identity, right? They're not male, they're not female, they're not just non-binary. They are queer. They're gender queer, right? And that's a little bit more specific, like positive identifier of gender. and some other people, including me, right? Like sometimes I call myself genderqueer. I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Whatever. Um, but I also use queer when I want to have a shorthand for all of the weird stuff that's going on. Like, I identify with many of the letters that are currently in use in the in the extended LGBTQIAAP plus whatever. Like, there's all the alphabet soup of LGBTQ identity, right? I identify with several of those letters, and sometimes it's easier just to say that I'm queer. It's like a shorthand, right?
Right.
For me to say, yes, I am part of that, without having to identify all of the things that I consider myself.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But that's part of the confusion with queer too, is that it does mean so many different things to so many people that sometimes it's not enough just to say, "Oh, I'm queer," because a lot of times that will require a conversation about what exactly that means in order to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
And I think that's the biggest issue of all, is that, man, words mean different things to different people.
That is
And
true.
language, and I don't know why I've had this conversation so much recently, and it's not even just on like this conversation, but in other conversations that have been revolved around language, that words and definitions aren't set in stone. Everything means different things to different people. Everything is interpreted different way by different people, in different tones and different inflections. And yes, that can be hard to navigate, but you also you have to remember everything you say is going to be interpreted by an individual.
Yes.
And when they respond in certain ways, you need to accept it. Like, you need to, like, own it. Like, and just go about your business.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love language. So, I want to share an interesting fact talking about the way words change. Do you know the word thug comes from?
I feel like I heard once and now I've forgotten.
Oh, you have heard once because you've read the story I wrote. But I did research on the word thug long before this current usage of it. And thug comes from thugi, and which was an Indian, a Hindu cult.
Yeah.
And they were some sects of that cult were known for waylaying travelers.
Yeah.
And that's where we got the usage of it, because basically it was you're thieves, waylayers, you're thugs. And it has evolved into what we have now in its many forms. But it's very interesting to think that that's where it came from. Or it's amazing. It's amazing. So there's also one other thing I wanted to do while we're talking about reclaimed language. And give me 1 second. Oh no. So I want to talk about racial slurs again for a second.
Okay.
Because there are so many words that we use that are racial slurs that it's ridiculous. And there are so many racial slurs out there that it's very hard to comprehend. Like spook, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Oh, I'm trying to think something. So I wanted to throw some out there. I have this book called A Practical Guide to Racism, and I've showed it. It's a funny book, hilarious book. It's whatever, but it actually has some racial slurs in the back that people have used over the years, and some of these they don't make a lot of sense, honestly. But they have, like, my God. So let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find one. Bugaboo is a easy one.
Mm-hmm.
My mom used to actually use the word juju. Someone would put a juju on someone, and that sounds like a racial slur towards Jewish people, right?
Okay, tell me the context of that, because I think I know what it actually is.
Usually, some kind of magic or like bad hex or something.
Yeah.
But my mom used to say that all the time. But of course, it's a racial slur, but it's more aimed towards voodoo type.
I was gonna say that's not a Jewish thing. That's an Afro-Caribbean thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Afro-Caribbean.
Right, like Afro-Caribbean / extremely deep South New Orleans, right?
Down in the down in Bayou on down there.
Yeah.
Gold brick is one. Coolie, peckerhead, and that just sounds like dickhead.
Yeah, that's what I would think it was.
Yeah, no, it's peckerhead is surprisingly one that has been used to hilariously enough. It's one that was used in the South early on as from Southern black people to talk about white guys. They were peckerheads because they should have called them dickheads, but it evolved into like this one specifically for white dudes. Now it's just used back more often, just as dickhead.
Yeah.
Dink. Can you guess who that's aimed at?
No,
the word dink.
I have no idea.
Does
is make me think of The Good Place.
Huh.
Right, because that was the one that Bad Janet used all the time.
Which is that's a racial slur against Asian people.
Huh.
Like I said, there are so many words. There's so many words that are used. There are so many words that people use innocently.
Yeah.
Very innocently.
That you just don't understand the context about.
Right.
But no excuses. Now you know the context of some of these.
Mm-hmm. I think of Mario, Super Mario Brothers, and Goomba. One of the major enemies of Super Mario Brothers is the Goomba, little mushroom guy, who in Japan is known as Karibo, which is a water chestnut. But in America, they're known as a Goomba. Well, of course, Goomba is a racial slur against Italian people.
Of course it is.
But there you have Mario stomping on Goombas.
Mario with his extremely exaggerated Italian accent.
Yeah. The spaghetti loving mushroom munching Italian plumber from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like this giant stereotype. Oh my gosh. There are so many things. Like language is so broad. And
That is true.
I get it. It's hard to navigate. And two, you shouldn't live on edge.
Right. So do the things, live the life, whatever, use the words. Once you learn that something has a context that makes it a slur, like, stop using it. And for God's sake, if somebody says, hey, that's a slur, don't use it anymore, don't fucking argue with them about it. Just kind of go, okay, and then stop using the word. Like, let people educate you. That's how you avoid being a dickhead.
And that also doesn't mean you have to walk on eggshells in every conversation.
Yeah.
Because I've had the same conversation with many people in the past, and they're just like, well, I don't want to have to treat every conversation like hard. I can't be free with people. I can't be myself with people. I can't communicate with them openly if I'm walking on eggshells in every conversation. You don't have to. Talk like you normally would talk. However, if someone has an issue with something you say, believe them.
Yes.
And stop.
Yeah.
That's it. Simple as that. Simple as that for your simple ass.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of what else. Also, for the people who use reclaimed language, that use reclaimed language as part of your community or whatever, you don't have to feel bad about using it.
Truth.
Reclaim that shit. If you want to call yourself a thug, be thug as hell. Man, motherfucker, be thug as hell and proud. You know,
use the words that feel good to you. I unapologetically call myself a bitch. I'm a bitch. I'm a slut. I mean, hell, do you remember back during the last presidential campaign where I got mad that everybody kept calling Trump a pervert? Because I'm like, I'm a fucking pervert. Perverts are great.
Right.
Because I am. Stop using pervert like it's a bad word.
That's like remember was it last week or week before last? We just started calling ourselves deviants. Yeah, we're deviants.
We are deviants, right? I actually had a whole negotiation with a person a little while back with a man who we were talking, and we ended up deciding not to play because part of what he wanted was he's like, I want to be humiliated. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean to you? And he goes, oh, I want somebody to call me a bitch and a slut and all that. And I'm like, I'm not here for that because those things are good things to me. I don't want to take this thing that I have embraced as something positive about myself and then reinforce its negative connotation by using it to humiliate somebody who thinks that it's humiliating. I'm like, I don't think that it's humiliating to be those things because I am those things unapologetically.
That's very much like my sisters and I. We call each other sluts all the time.
Yeah, because y'all are unapologetically.
Right, because we are. That's whatever. Like, you slut. Like, oh my god. Like, so be you. Like, if it's part of who you are, be you. And don't you don't. Like, for me, like I said, I'm gonna say nigga. I'm gonna say nigga a lot,
And you have the right to,
especially
and do it.
like, especially around my other black people who use the word nigga. I'll tell you one of the most interesting interactions, not interesting things that happened post interaction. So I was dating someone a few years back, and this was a white woman, and some of my black friends like came and they were visiting, and I was talking to them. I think using all the slang and stuff that we use, and she was like, and after they left, she was like, you became a completely different person. You said things, you acted in a way that you didn't act when you were around me. I was like, because they're black. They're black. There are communications, there are things that we do in our community as black people with each other that I'm not going to do with you. Because it's not your thing.
Yeah.
It's our thing. And that's okay. You can have that connection. You should have that connection, honestly. You should have that connection with people within your group. You should have things and language and words that are yours that makes you feel good. Because, and even other black people don't understand this. Like the black people who are so down on saying the word nigga and all this stuff, even they don't get to many black people in the black community. Nigga is not something negative. It's not something bad. It makes us feel like we're a part of something, that we have a kinship with people like us.
Mm-hmm.
It is powerful. It is strong. It is something that bonds us. We are, like, to us, like, we niggas. You're not. You're not a part of this. We've struggled together. We've experienced things together. You know, we're in this together. We're niggas. You're not. And that means something. That's important.
And that's exactly the same context and exactly the same reasoning behind so much of the language that's been reclaimed by different groups within the LGBTQIA spectrum, right? Queer is one of them, right? Like I used the word dyke earlier. We talked about the F slur, right? There's words that the transgender communities, especially trans women, have used, and that's, again, very divided, where some trans women use different words to talk about themselves, but that makes it not, like, 100% not okay. But these are extremely marginalized identities. Like, these women have been through some shit and are face discrimination from all sides and have used these words, have reclaimed these words to create a barrier, right? Like they're using them to create the barrier from the other side, right? Like these are our words, these are our identities, right? It's the same thing. Like we are forming a community through the use of these words.
Mm-hmm.
And reinforcing the community through the use of these words, right? Like it's drawing the line for the safe space, right? Like these are the words that we use amongst ourselves.
And that is a good thing. That is an empowering thing.
Yes.
And like people need to understand that.
Yeah.
They do. So it's like we're bringing an end to the topic segment.
It kind of does, yes.
So I want to say to all my niggas that we gonna keep saying nigga. And with that, we're gonna go on to our sex segment after some more music from Ash.
Woo!
Enjoy.
can touch the particles in space. Feel the matter shifting into place. Floating through the darkness, call it grace. Bow your head and nod to the bass. Heart beating like an 808. Starbound right up out the gate. Supernova blowing up my fate. Instead I swear these haters cannot take. Tell me who the hell do you think you are? I can pierce the heavens with these goddamn bars. Impossible? I go beyond. Hyperdrive in the XLR. Megas if you ain't catch that bar. I'm the captain now, call me Young Picard. We gon' take flight. We gon' take flight. We gon' take flight. We gon' take flight. Ship's name is Wednesday. No losing. We big slave. We soaring. We cruising. We touring. Perusing this system. Enduring this journey. We moving like comets. No worries. We got this. Can't stop it. 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 Can't stop it.
And welcome back to our sex segment this week. Yay! What the hell was that?
I was wooing.
You were doing something.
There was more of a squeak, but
That was... I'm confused and distressed now. I don't like that. Don't do that again, please.
all right. I'll throw that one in the bag of shit not to do.
At least not to do around me. Jesus, what was that? Anyway.
Jesus, God.
Anyway. So our topic for the sex segment this week came from my call for submissions on Facebook. Guys, I need more ideas. Please give me more ideas. Go onto the Outer Voices Facebook page and tell me what deep burning questions you have about sex, about kink, about all sorts of stuff. Anything that you have. If I don't know about it, I will research it.
And Ez is looking for burning questions, not questions about whether your sex is burning, as we use that joke again.
Yes. If your sex is burning, see a doctor. Also, I have some better lube recommendations for you. But in any case, right? So our question, our topic this week came out of a question that I received on my call for submissions on the Facebook page. And it was, we received a question from, honestly, I don't even think that she's ever listened to the show. I just put out this question and I just put out this call and she asked me a question about how to do aftercare for kink if you're playing with somebody that you're not in a relationship with and you don't like cuddling with strangers. And so, yeah, right? And so, this didn't really, it's not something that I necessarily had ever thought about because I don't really play hard without at least somebody there that I'm in a relationship with, or I have not yet played hard without somebody that I'm in a relationship with being there for whatever it is that I need. But so that just got me started thinking on what, I don't know have we talked about aftercare?
No.
Okay, so we have not talked about aftercare at all. And so that got me started thinking about what is aftercare and what kinds of things could qualify as aftercare. So definition time, for those of you who don't know, aftercare is something, it's usually used in a kink or BDSM context, right? Which is the recovery time after playing really hard. A lot of kink, a lot of fetish, a lot of BDSM can push people into really extreme mental states, which is the appeal, right? The ideal, the ideal is to go through an ordeal, right? This is an extremely physically stressful thing, and that's where the satisfaction comes in. if that's the kind of thing that you're into, right? That's why you do it. But that, like, being pushed to that, to extremes, especially if you're doing really like heavy duty emotional or physically, like emotionally or physically stressful play, like that kind of thing requires some aftercare. It requires a conscious, intentional transition back into a normal headspace, right? It requires you to do something. And the general recommendation, or like the general assumption, is that you're playing this hard with somebody that you know and have a pre-existing relationship with. And so aftercare often in that case looks like you sit down and you cuddle and you interact that way. So, and that's some of the ways that aftercare traditionally looks, right? Is let me decide on my terminology for clarity's sake, right? I'll refer to top and bottom, right? So aftercare is important. First off, I'm a dom, right? Or I am dominant, I guess. But sometimes I bottom for impact, right? So I've had this on both sides. But aftercare is important for both people in this, right? It's extremely important for the bottom to come back up to a normal headspace, right? Because subspace or that extreme mental state can be really tough to deal with by yourself. So it's important to have that aftercare, but aftercare is also important for the top, right? Because a lot of the stuff that tops do in kink and in BDSM is extreme, and tops also need reassurance that, like, yes, this is a thing that was wanted. Yes, this is the thing that your bottom wanted you to do, right? It doesn't matter if you beat the tar out of your bottom, right? You need to be reassured that, like, that, yes, that was good. That was what they wanted, right? And so it's important to have aftercare on both sides. But traditionally, there's a lot of like physical closeness, cuddling, touching. Food is always good. Chocolate is especially recommended for bottoms because of it can help. Something about chocolate, I don't know, it helps people recover from shock, which is part of like what subspace is. It's physical shock, right?
I think chocolate actually I think chocolate releases endorphins.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But in any case, like, chocolate is recommended. I usually, if I have done heavy bottoming, I usually want something salty. And water, like, those are all things that are important. But then that still raises the question, like, what does aftercare look like if you don't or can't, like, physically touch, or if you don't want to, or if you can't physically touch the person that was topping you, right? Like, if you don't have that emotional connection and so you don't feel comfortable cuddling with them, like, what kinds of things do you need to do as aftercare, right? And the advice that I gave, the short version of the advice that I gave is, think, before you go into that situation, think about the kinds of things that are comforting for you. Like, if you are having an extremely stressful day and you're by yourself, what things make you feel better?
Right.
Right. So for me, I would need a like some kind of warm blanket. That is the thing that I would want, right? Something that's warm and comforting, right? I am not a little at all, but I would possibly bring my teddy bear along with me because that's a thing. I know, because I'm not a little at all, but I still have my teddy bear. Yeah, like I said, food, right? Chocolate or something salty, whatever it is that works for you. So think about that in advance. What kinds of things do you do to self-soothe under ordinary circumstances when you're not playing like this? Because the same kinds of things that are soothing to you on an ordinary basis are also going to be soothing for you when you're playing, right? The things, if I am having a really terrible day, really what I want to do, and like really what I want to do is I really want to cuddle with my partners and be like, please pet me. Like touch my hair and wrap your arm around me and just pet me, right? That's what I want. And so when I play really hard, that's what I want for aftercare. Is I want to be like, if I'm bottoming really hard, like I want somebody to wrap an arm around me and pet my hair. Like that's what feels comforting to me. But so know in advance, I think, like know in advance the kinds of things that are soothing to you. If you know that you're playing with somebody, that cuddling with them is not going to be a comfortable, soothing experience for you, first off, like prepare in advance what is going to, like bring a blanket with you. If you're going to the club and you know you're going to be doing some heavy play, like bring your blanket with you. Bring your whatever with you that you know you're going to need in advance so that you have those tools there in case you can't communicate like afterwards. A lot of people, when they start to sink into that, they go nonverbal, or they have a lot of difficulty communicating clearly with the people around them. Like be prepared, like know what it is that you need. Also tell people in advance. Any top worth their salt is going to want to make sure that you're taken care of if you've been playing really hard. They're not just going to leave you to deal with shit on your own, unless they're a shitty person, in which case probably don't play with them anymore, is my opinion. But communicate with them in advance. Say, hey, this is only, like, we don't know each other really that well. So for aftercare, I don't feel comfortable cuddling with you, but I've brought this and this and this. Can you make sure that I'm set up with those things after we're done playing, right? And any top that's worth their salt, first off, is not going to do things that's different from what you wanted, because any top worth their salt values your autonomy and your consent, right? If you tell them in advance, hey, this is not, like, I'm not going to want to cuddle with you. I don't feel comfortable cuddling with you after this. They're not going to try to cuddle you after that, because that's a violation of your consent, right? But communicate with people in advance. Like, say, I brought my blanket, I brought my teddy bear. Can you make sure that I have some chocolate and a bag of chips before you go off and play, right? Or say, hey, like, just check up on me and make sure that I'm okay after a few minutes, right? Tell them in advance what you need so that you don't have to figure out how to communicate that in the moment, right? When you're already sunk down into that space, when you're already trying to deal with processing all of the feelings and all of the emotions, have that be part of your negotiation. You wouldn't go into a heavy impact scene without at least talking a little bit with the person hitting you in advance about, like, where you like to be hit and how you like to be hit and with what and how hard and for how long, and what it looks like when you're processing pain versus what it looks like when it's too much, and like what you're safe. Like, you wouldn't go into a scene without talking through all of that. Don't go into a scene with somebody new. Like, don't do any pickup play with somebody new if you haven't told them what your aftercare looks like, what you need for aftercare, right? Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Help me out. I'm just kind of rambling.
I do not.
Okay. This is the sex segment where Ez rambles and then asks for requests for clarification. But yeah, so
Keem understands.
okay, I'm gonna quote some Plato though, right? Like, know thyself, right? Know in advance what works for you, what is comforting for you, what you're gonna need. Prepare for it, bring it along, and then communicate that to the people that you're playing with before you start playing, so that there's not, like, once you're sunk down into space and like things are in full swing and things like wrap up, so that there's no confusion and no uncertainty about how best to take care of you. because you need to be taken care of, right? And maybe that means that you have like prepared everything for you to take care of yourself, but make sure that you're not just leaving that up to whatever, because that can be like emotionally dangerous. Like sub drop is real. I mean, hell, top drop is real, right? Like all of these things are real. That endorphin crash after you're done playing is really real. And it can be emotionally hard to go straight from playing really hard and then have no transition. That can make that sub drop even worse than it already is. It can make it even more extreme. And also, like, trying to do something else, like hot on the heels of heavy play, right? Like, say you play really hard at the club and then you have no aftercare and then you're like, oh shit, I have to go home, right? Like leaving straight on the heels of that, you are in no space. You are in no place to be driving anywhere, right? You're fucking high on endorphins, right? Your judgment is going to be a little impaired. Your coordination is going to be impaired. Your thinking is going to be noticeably different than than it was before. So it can be physically unsafe to not have at least a little bit of that transition time. So make sure that you've got that taken care of in advance. Right?
I mean, this is also important for, I mean, outside of a kink scenario, like the importance of aftercare.
It is, right? And I'm talking specifically about kink and BDSM because that's when it's at its most extreme, right? Because you're like artificially creating extremely heightened states for both parties, right? This is an endorphin high for both people, but especially for the bottom, right? Depending on what it is that you're doing. You're subjecting your body to like high levels of stress in a lot of these cases. So, but it does apply for a whole bunch of other stuff too, right? Sorry, I interrupted you, but
no, it's that was really it. It was just reminders like this doesn't just like even if you're you're out with somebody new and you decide to have just sex with them, just like vanilla stuff, you know, it's important to remember remember that this same stuff then, because I mean I've certainly I'm not too experienced with the kink stuff, but like there have been instances where there were some people that I had been involved with that I didn't like. I like to cuddle post this word that everybody hates me using, but coitus.
why do you keep using that word?
Because I like it.
I know, and it's weird.
But I like to cuddle. It's very much something I do, and I am. But there are some people that I just did not feel comfortable cuddling with for whatever reason. But it also made me feel weird afterward. And I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't know. Where are you going with this?
Just the reminder that it's important to like what you need post doing stuff, like find a way to get it done. Like find a way of getting what you need.
Yeah, and sometimes that means getting a little bit creative, and that's fine. Right? But make sure that you don't subject yourself to that extreme state without knowing in advance what's going to be comforting for you, without communicating in advance what it looks like for you to have your needs taken care of in that situation. just like with everything, right? Like know in advance what you want and what you need, and prepare, like be prepared to make sure that you get that. Because especially in extreme circumstances like BDSM play, like you might not be in a state where you can communicate that after the fact.
Right. Very right. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. I think that is it for today.
Well, I guess that means it's the end of our show.
I guess.
Special thanks to Ash for providing us music this week. Also, very much looking forward to the artist interview next week, and Ash's return to our show. Special thanks to the Living Room Leftists for providing our theme for the week.
As always, a theme for the show.
Just for the show, as always. Special thanks to the person who posed that question. I don't know if you've listened to the show, but you're certainly welcome to come listen to more. But thank you for fielding a question. As we love questions, we love talking about more stuff, and we love helping people figure things out. So
yeah, if you have any questions, if you have anything that you would like to hear me ramble on for about half an hour, if you have any suggestions for us for our topic segment, or have news that shows up that you would like us to talk about, please hit us up on our Facebook page. We are here for that. We are here for that. We will take your ideas into consideration, because we love our fans. We love you guys.
Yes. So come talk to us. We like to talk. Come talk to us.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else. Also, if you're a musician that would like to have your music featured, as always, you're welcome to. I need to get more money so I can go out and go to more places to meet more local musicians, because I really want more music, to offer more opportunities for musicians to come on the show. And being broke makes that very difficult for me to go out scouting people who would want to be on. But if you're a musician and you're interested and you want to come on and talk, you want to give your music so we can get it out there, please do. We are here for you. Also, activist groups. We have had conversations with various activists and activism groups. If you have something you're passionate about and you want to get the word out there, once again, come talk to us. Let us know. We'll have you on to come talk more. We need to plug the podcast we were on last night.
Yes.
Since you set that up, you plug it.
Yeah, so go check out Man Yells at News. Larry is pretty fantastic. We are very serious about our news all the time. Larry and his guests treat it with a lot more levity than we usually do. So go check that out if you want a send-up of a lot of news, including a lot of really random, ridiculous news shit that happens that you might have missed. Go check that out. You can find him on Facebook at Man Yells at News. And yeah, he's pretty great.
It's very fun. Like, it's a lot of funny stuff. Very informative. Larry is great. This was us being on the show was my first time interacting with him at all, and it was awesome. Very, very awesome. Also, look for us on his show.
Yeah.
Because we like to be on other people's shows. Hey, and if you're another podcast who wants to invite us on so we can be on somebody else's show, we like to talk to people, and
yes.
we want to be on. We want to be like the virus of podcasts.
We want to infiltrate your show.
Yeah, we want to spread ourselves all over your podcast. That sounded really dirty.
That did sound really dirty, but I'm here for it. With consent. With your consent.
With consent. Yeah, we're not gonna spread ourselves all over your podcast without your consent. That's not what we do here. But anyway, like I said, look out for that. I think that'll be it. Oh, Negro Terror. Negro Terror is getting closer to their goal for their album.
Woo woo.
So go check out their GoFundMe. Like they are coming up.
They are fantastic.
They're fantastic. They're awesome dudes.
You have heard their music on this show many times because they're one of my defaults if I was not able to find a band for the week.
All right. And Rico has been on the show multiple times already.
And will probably be on again before the summer is out.
Yeah. That's probably a definite.
Hazarding a guess.
So, hey, go show them some love and support. Because they're going to be big. They're already pretty big in the area. But they're about to take the world by absolute storm. So go show them some love. Get on that train as it's setting off. But with that, this has been Keem and Esme, and we are out.
But there are these things that matter, and they really fucking matter. There's like 4 things that matter, and they really fucking matter. I mean, objectively, I mean, you should care, especially you, if you thought about it for 5 fucking minutes.